So I have been using this M1 Max MacBook Pro for the past 3 years since it came out, and it's been great. I have felt absolutely no compulsion to upgrade since. Haven't needed to. It's funny, most of my work is pretty light, but occasionally I will have to edit a video on the go, which is then when, the extra horsepower and the screen and everything about this comes in handy, and it's great. If I didn't have to do that ever, I would just have like an Air or a Surface laptop, something like that. But that range of work is why this has been great for me, and it's been awesome so far. So along comes this M4 generation of MacBook Pros, and it's the first generation that I have actually been tempted to maybe upgrade to. They've stacked a couple of the right upgrades in the right places for things that actually make a difference to me. So let's just get right into it, nuts and bolts, because the first big pillar is performance. And the main reason why this new laptop matters at all is that it's got the new generation of M4 chips inside, and we all know the leap from Intel chips to Apple Silicon chips for M1 was generational, but since then, it's been a sort of more reasonable incremental upgrade, going from M1 to M2, then M3, and then M4. So I think it's pretty obvious that nobody with an M2 or M3 needs to upgrade, but there's been enough improvements now stacking up upon each other from M1 to M4 that the numbers are now starting to get kind of interesting. So just to set the stage, this laptop that I've been using is the M1 Max, maxed out, basically the best you could get at the time, 64 gigs of unified memory on this system. And this unit I've been testing of the M4 Max is also maxed out. It's the best you can get now. It's 128 gigs of faster unified memory, but the cores are all better, faster, stronger on the new one. 3 nanometers versus 5, 546 gigs per second of memory bandwidth versus 400. Just the hardware improvements to get to M4 Max are clearly there. So to keep the apples to apples comparison going, Apple in their own presentation said up to 2.2 times faster CPU performance than M1 Max and 1.9 times faster GPU performance. So we're looking at around twice as fast. And the synthetic benchmarks I've run back this up. I got over 4,000 in Geekbench 6 CPU single core, which is the highest single core score ever in a Mac by a while. And the multi-core score was incredible too, tops the chart. And then GPU has improved a lot to the point where it's bumping up against M2 Ultra, not M2 Max, M2 Ultra chips, the one that's currently in the Mac Pro. So it's pretty clear that on paper, yeah, these M4 chips are blazing, they're incredible. But that's just on paper. What about in real life? What about real workflow stuff? So on YouTube, you might have noticed a lot of the benchmarking and real world stuff that you see is video editing benchmarks, just because that's the most intensive thing most YouTubers do on their computers. It's the most intensive thing I do. But yeah, that's what's gonna drive my purchase decision, so that's the first thing I looked into. So my own benchmark is literally loading up a video project in Final Cut Pro, moving things around, messing with clips, cutting, effects, tracking, and then of course export times. This project here is a mix of 8K red raw footage and action camera footage with comped graphics and smaller video files from the Snapchat glasses. And not only did this laptop open and flip through Final Cut faster than any other machine I've ever used, but it also exported the final video roughly twice as fast as my M1 Max laptop, which is really exciting for me. So a pretty prime example of the performance unlocking something new is Final Cut Pro 11 just came out, and I've been messing with it for a little bit, and there's a new headlining feature called Magnetic Mask. And my theory is that it's taking pretty heavy advantage of Apple Silicon, specifically the Neural Engine, because it's AI powered. But I had to prove it. So previously, to cut a subject out of a background in a video, it was this painstaking process called rotoscoping, where you're essentially manually drawing the mask for every single frame. Now, this one works even better than some plugins I've used like mRoto AI, and it's even faster. Basically, all you do is click the subject and sort of refine your selection. And then once you're good to go, you just analyze forward for the entire clip and just let it do its thing, and it just continues for the whole clip. So I ran through this on the M4 Max, I ran through this on the M1 Max, but I did some other machines as well. And the results, well, the M1 Max was able to pull this off in 2 minutes, 56 seconds. The M4 Max got it down to 2 minutes and 13 seconds, but then M2 Ultra got it down to 1.5 minutes. But then the Intel Xeon Mac Pro super expensive with the dual Radeon Pro GPUs, took 6 minutes for the same 45-second clip here. So the leap is crazy, and it just keeps getting better. I'm thinking M4 Ultra is gonna be, as a video editor, pretty sick. But of course, you might not be a video editor. You might be something else. You might be a photographer. I just watched Tyler Stallman's video on his M4 Max laptop. It's really good. The second half of his video, he does a lot of testing against the M1 generation with Lightroom and Resolve. And not only does it continue to crush M1 Max, but sometimes it actually gets close to or beats the newest Mac Studio with M2 Ultra, which is pretty insane. So I'll link his whole video below. It's really good. Now, obviously, we expect Mac Studio and Mac Pro to eventually get their own M4 generation updates with the M4 Ultra chip. I'm sure that'll be immense. But even so, with this, it's crazy to see Apple Silicon is still improving fast enough that this new laptop chip is outperforming some of the desktop chips from earlier years of Apple Silicon. There's a bunch of other real-world benchmarks out there. I'll link some more below that are really good. But I think the bottom line from my testing and from other tests that I've watched and read is, yeah, there is now a significant bump up in performance from M1 to M4. Not just 30 or 40%, but like 200%, which is pretty crazy. But that by itself might not be enough to convince you to upgrade. So there's more. Luckily, several other things are updated about this laptop as well. So first of all, this laptop is space black, as you may have noticed, which the M1 generation didn't have, but it's not exactly new. It's actually had the same two colors as M3, space black or silver. I do love me some space black, but anyone who has one already knows it looks really good new, but then it kind of collects fingerprints and starts to wear over time. Still, the best solution I found is a skin over a case. Just adds that little bit of scratch protection and you'll never see fingerprints again. So I'll leave a link below to channel sponsor Dbrand's Glitch Skin if you want to check that out. It's much more interesting than black or silver. But there is another visual improvement here too, and you've probably noticed it watching this video. It looks so good. That is the Nanotexture display option. It is new, and I love it. It's incredible. And the thing is, I have slight reservations about how it might wear over time, but on a laptop like this, it just looks so good. Nanotexture started out as a $1,000 option on the Pro Display XDR, and this is the hardest one to recommend. Like, it's stupid expensive, and then it's so delicate to maintain. It just picked up fingerprints so easily. You'd have to have the right low pile soft microfiber to actually clean it. Like, it's tough. I wouldn't recommend it to most. But it seems like it improved since then, because now it's a $300 option on the Studio display that a lot of people have. Then they offered it as a $100 option on the iPad Pro, which obviously that's something people are touching constantly with their fingers, and we haven't really seen too many issues with it. And so I think on a laptop like this, like if it can be like maintenance pain-free, then it feels like a kind of a no-brainer. Like, this is my favorite option on this laptop. Like, you're gonna take it all over the place in all sorts of different lighting, and just the way this matte finish just eats reflections and completely removes any lighting environment distractions from anything from an office building to a coffee shop to an airplane with a window next to you. Like, it's actually incredible. It's awesome. All laptops should have something like this. It's $100 more than the glossy version for the MacBook Pro, and I'll take it every time. The fact that this is new to the M4 generation by itself, honestly, is very compelling to me. So then the only other big thing that's new here is Thunderbolt 5, which is funny. It's kind of overrated and underrated at the same time. So the outgoing laptops all have perfectly great, very fast Thunderbolt 4 USB-C ports. Love that. Almost every new high-end laptop has that. These new ones here getting Thunderbolt 5, which a lot of other machines don't have yet. And actually, the base 14-inch MacBook Pro gets one more port too, which is great. So now they all have the 3 Thunderbolt 5 ports. It feels a bit underrated maybe because it is so new and it's in so few laptops, but it is actually a genuine capability improvement. Like, we love more bandwidth, we love faster I/O. You can do 3 6K displays from this laptop instead of 2, so that's awesome. But there are so few Thunderbolt 5 accessories out right now, and the ones that do start to come out, you also notice, are pretty expensive. So my favorite accessory in the world right now, for example, I think is the Samsung X5, the Thunderbolt 3 drive. It's incredible, 2,800 megabyte per second read speeds. They don't sell them anymore, but you can get a nearly equivalent 2 terabyte SanDisk drive for about $275, right? Then there's the new OWC Thunderbolt 5 drive, and it'll read and write at 6,000 megabytes per second. Damn. But it's also 2 terabytes for $400. So, as a video editor who's passing around really large files, like, I'm gonna want one of these at some point. I'm gonna wait for more options. It's gonna be great, but I think the point of Thunderbolt 5 on these computers is that ecosystem of Thunderbolt 5 accessories, drives, docks, interfaces, that's going to be built up over time. This is great for future-proofing the thing, but it doesn't actually affect most people right away, unless you're literally going to plug in 3 Pro displays right off the bat. So then there's a couple other little smaller things. The new center stage ultra-wide webcam that will follow you around. I actually think it looks better, which is nice. The battery life is also rated to be slightly better thanks to the M4's improved efficiency. So I think this is mostly going to come into effect under lighter workloads, but you love to see it. Same size battery, better battery life. And then the screen has a higher SDR max brightness of 1,000 nits over the previous, I think it was 500 or 600. So if you're in a brighter space, whether you have Nanotexture or not, everything is more readable. And it turns out Apple quietly updated all these MacBook Pros to quantum dot displays and didn't tell anybody. They're probably still on their way to OLED, but yeah, these improvements to quantum dot and efficiency and especially responsiveness, it might just be confirmation bias, but I feel like the responsiveness is actually noticeable to my eye. So you might not upgrade just for the performance improvements, but they are pretty good. You might not upgrade just for the new Nanotexture finish, but it is really good. And you definitely won't upgrade just for Thunderbolt 5 or just for the slightly brighter display or the ultra-wide webcam. But I think all of these things stacked on top of each other combined is, I think you actually can justify an upgrade this year. If you are regularly pushing this laptop to its limits, you can justify this improvement, or at least that's what I'm telling myself. M1 Max is going to be perfectly fine for another year, though, no question about that. I also think it's really interesting that we basically have Apple Intelligence to thank for all of these new Macs basically having a new minimum of 16 gigs of unified memory. It just makes all of the base Macs feel like a better deal now, and the Mac Mini is amazing. And there's more to come. We know there's going to be more M4 chips on the horizon, but it's a really good new laptop. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Peace.